Alright, we're gonna get started. So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the April 17th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. I'm First Selectman Colin Wall, and I call this meeting to order. Everyone would stand, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, at this time I will open up the floor for public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Ms. Hallett, can you just state your name and address?
Liz.
Yes.
Doctor.
Commissioner.
Yeah, right. Christina Hallett, Newgate Road. A number of years ago, I worked as a divorce mediator, primarily with families of children. And the couple would come in, clearly not happy, because they had differences of opinion and were gonna split. And the very first thing that I would say to them was, please understand, none of you are gonna get everything you want. But what you need to do is you need to communicate. In fact, we make parents who are divorcing go to a parenting class so they can learn to not target people and to communicate. And they do this for the best interest of the child. And so I want to make a comment because I very much believe in standing up for what's right. It doesn't matter what side someone is on. I think we need to call out when there's misbehavior. And I think that we all need to communicate and ask questions rather than make assumptions or jump to conclusions. I don't think anyone should be targeted. I don't think that people should be targeted from this side or from this side. I don't think it's right to yell out comments and interrupt a meeting. And I don't think that anyone should ever go after someone's job, because it is very simple to ask a question and get an answer. I've been in a position where that has not happened to me, and that's not okay. It's not okay that that happened to anyone. I also want to say that I think that people show their character as you get to know them over time. And so I do want to actually make a specific comment in regard to Selectman Harrington. I have never seen anyone, other than maybe me, dot so many I's and cross so many T's. There's a typo. We left out the word and. You're meticulous in what you do. So the thought that you would create something for a commission that you're not part of, in your role, which I know quite clearly you take seriously. And we don't agree about a lot, but it's not about whether we agree. It's about treating people with civility, decency, and respect. So I'm not okay, because your character would be enough to tell me you wouldn't have done what you were accused of in the email that I did read from January 19th, 2024. But even if I wondered, and actually all of you, including Derek, have had me ask you questions when I thought that something wasn't right, or there was a problem, or there was a concern. And that's what should have happened. So I wanted to come forward and speak to that, because I think we need to speak up when people go too far. We live together, we are a town. I want diversity and equity and inclusion. And that doesn't happen when we attack people or when we go after them. Thank you.
Well said.
Is there any other public comment in the room? Mr. Stein?
My turn?
Yes, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Got a couple little notes there. Gordon Stagg, Stone Street, 1575. Lived here since 1980. And I have been involved in SCA. Helped work with Warren Packard, one of your first elections, to lead the effort to build the ambulance building. I've been in Rotary. I am in Rotary. And I have worked hard in the past to try to get us to a town manager situation. And I know that's been not approved. So I want to make one more attempt to explain why I think there's a breakthrough. I want to try to get you guys to see it. So that's why I'm here, so that you will put forward in the charter revision the subject of town manager. And the red flag that I'm gonna use to just, because I'm gonna get out of here quickly, the red flag is this. In the 40 years that I've lived here with my wife too, Ann, a lot of you know her, it's been, well, there's been 14 different first selectments. Think of that. That's an average of roughly three years. And they're the leaders, basically, as the town sees it, the townspeople. I think we all have the great committees behind, but the town people see that person as the leader. Every 3 years they leave, they don't stay, they don't. And there's some outstanding people on there. You look back at that list, I walked through it a couple times before coming in here, and we've had some really, really outstanding people. So I'm not here, there's no complaints coming out of me. I'm just saying, we're missing one thing. The first select person should be different than all the rest of you select people. That person should be, first of all, committed to a career of some kind here. Because we're investing over and over in 3 years of somebody who then goes away for a good reason. That's their business, but they never considered, this was a stop for them, and thank God. But you do need, I think, somebody who's staying in on a career basis, and that would be the first select person. That's really my major argument, that we're going forward. We don't even get our money back in terms of investment on these quality people. You can't do a job and do a strategic plan and carry it out in 3 years. How about 10? So don't we need somebody who's on the team, that's leading the team? And I realize there's all kinds of great commissions on here. I congratulate you on the job that's been done. But what's wrong with having and selecting a person who has the background, the education, the whole 9 yards for a first select person? And I'm asking you to consider taking that to the, what do you come up with, charter revision. Thank you. You've done a great job, and I appreciate it.
Is there any other?
And I gotta go.
Is there any other public comment in the room? Mr. Gottlieb, state your name and address.
Dave Gothier, 3219 Phelps Road. I want to echo Mr. Stagg's comments. I have been a proponent of town manager for I don't know how many years. And the last go-around we had at this, it was not the townspeople who decided. It was the Board of Selectmen. The committee, as I remember, wanted to bring it forward. And the Board of Selectmen refused to send it to the town meeting. I think we need to let the town decide. As many of you know, a Board of Selectmen or the town first selectman cannot be recalled in the state of Connecticut. They can run the town from a prison if they are committed to a prison. President of the United States can be recalled, but the first selectman cannot in this state, and I'm sure Mr. Gottlieb would agree with me. So, with a town manager on contract, there are reasons you could get them out. First selectman, you can't, and I'm not trying to criticize anyone here, I'm just saying, that's the way it is. And so I'm all for having the town decide with the town manager who we want to first select.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment in the room? All right, seeing none, oh, Mr. Haynes. Just state your name and address.
My
Michael Haynes, 50 Sunset Drive. Wanted to speak regarding Sue Irwin's personal attack on Selectman Harrington. I, as well as most of the town, find these actions both disgusting and hateful. Irwin brought these baseless claims right after the Board of Selectmen chose not to have her serve on the Library Commission. She then sought resumes of all the new members of the Library Commission and made it known to them that she had their personal information. How devious, petty, and shameless was this? Not only did Ms. Irwin not publicly apologize for these actions, but the Suffield Democratic Town Committee doubled down and came out with a support of these actions. This is, in my opinion, bullying and divisive politics at its worst. Our neighbors in town, thankfully, who are not on the DTC, are all appalled at what has happened and really cannot believe that their own party condones and even supports these types of actions. How can our town attract high-quality people to serve on boards and commissions if they're always looking over their shoulders and have these despicable acts that they have to be concerned about? From listening to the discussion from the previous Board of Selectmen meeting 2 weeks ago, I found it interesting that Selectmen Hill and Chavez condoned the actions of Sue Irwin. I wonder if they would feel the same way if they were the ones being targeted by someone, or someone in their family being targeted. This is hateful behavior, and I really hope somebody will stand up for civility and basic right and wrong. I have two requests of the Board of Selectmen. First, given all that Selectman Harrington has been subject to this personal attack in her official capacity, I ask that the Board of Selectmen consider having the town reimburse Selectman Harrington for all costs incurred in order to fight these baseless claims, including for paid time off. I think it's the very least our town can do for her after what she's been forced to endure. Secondly, the Board of Selectmen should vote to replace Jim Irwin on the Library Commission. It is crystal clear that the Library Commission can no longer function appropriately as long as he is a member of that commission. Each member on that commission cannot keep looking over their shoulders, wondering what is being said or voted on is going to come back to hurt them personally, their well-being, and perhaps even suffer intimidation that's already been occurring. For the sake of this commission and our town, Jim Irwin should be replaced immediately. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment in the room? Just state your name and address.
Carl Christian, 450 North Grand Street. I agree, Jim Irwin's got to be replaced. There's no board, no commission anywhere that's safe. Who's next? We're all in the bullseye, all of us. You know, she's attacking the fire commission, she's attacking other commissions. I mean, Jim Irwin he has to be stopped. And please, kick him off the library commission so something good can happen there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment in the room before I move to Zoom? All right, I'm going to move to Zoom. Is there any public comment on Zoom? You just raise your hand. All right, I don't see any.
No.
Moving on to item 3 is approval of the minutes from the April 3rd, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
At the hearing tonight, I make a motion that they be adopted as drafted.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 4 is discussion and approval to reappoint Brian Burrill as an alternate member to the Permanent Building Commission through April 30th, 2028.
So moved.
Motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 5 is discussion and approval to reappoint Claire Belanco as an alternate member of the Historic District Commission through April 30th, 2028.
Kathy Harrington, so moved.
The motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right, motion carries 4-1. Item number 6 is discussion and approval to reappoint Pam Sinofsky to the Emergency Management Office through April 30th, 2028.
Sorry, so moved.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion?
I have a question. When's that commission ever met?
I don't recall. Get you an answer there.
I'm just curious. I don't know if they ever functioned.
I want to say there was a meeting this
Remember
past year.
I'm sorry?
I want to say there was a meeting this past year.
Once a year?
Yeah. I'll get you some information on the last one.
I think Melissa Mack, our previous first select woman, spoke with them or another commission, maybe it was ethics, and said like at a minimum you need to meet at least once a year, so
Once a
once a
year.
year, I think, if they don't have work to do otherwise.
I mean, to my recollection, when we had that big snowstorm, I remember many years ago, that was the last time I remember us having it. Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 7 is discussion and approval to reappoint Gail Demko to the Central Regional Tourism District through 3/31/2027.
Kathy Harrington, so moved.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Mr. First Selectman, I'm going to move that we table items 8 and 9 on the agenda. Item 8 is discussion of the town right-of-way permit. Item 9 is discussion approval of the landfill policy. I'm moving that we table those items.
All right. Motion has been made. Unfortunately, DPW Director couldn't join us tonight, so I think it makes a lot of sense just to wait until the next meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, item number 10 is discussion of building permit unauthorized use and occupancy fee ordinance, permit refund policy, and reinspection policy. You guys received multiple documents from me with requests from our building official, Mike Addington, who's with us tonight. You can come up, Mike. For policy changes in regards to refunds, re-inspections, and unauthorized occupancy. Mike, why don't we start off with refund policy, and these guys can ask you questions as we go. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Currently, the building department does not have a refund policy, so I drafted this up to kind of make sure that we're being paid for the time and effort that we're spending on reviewing and so.
How was it done in the past?
It would just be a number just randomly picked, and so now we need something in writing so it's fair for everybody, with the deadline on it, so that we're not getting requests years later. This is a policy very similar to other towns.
So then if I understand it correctly, the idea behind the policy is uniformity to ensure that all the residents are treated in a fair fashion. Is that right?
And I think it's probably, if you don't mind if I jump in, Mike, I think it's probably important for the board to understand that the problem with how the building permit fees are collected is that it's a one set permit based on the value, right? So there's not like a good number we can give back. We can't attribute the number of inspections or things like that. We really have to talk about it in terms of percentage in order to recoup the actual time that goes into it. There's a ton of work that the department does
reviewing building permits, when they come in, reviewing plans to make sure they comply with both the building code. We've got to make sure it goes through the proper zoning approval in many cases. They have to identify whether wetlands approval is needed, whether historic district approval is needed. It is a ton of administrative work, and we've got great folks in the department who do a fantastic job getting through that. The problem is, you get somebody who comes in after those things have already started and now wants to withdraw the permit. Well, the town's already spent an incredible amount of resources at that point in order to, go through the approval process, and now all of a sudden somebody doesn't get it, and wants the money back. So, I think this is and Mike and I talked about this on a couple of occasions. I think this is a really good way to address this, which takes into consideration the amount of time the building department puts into this, and then it sort of steps up from there. So, if somebody goes through the administrative review, and problems are identified, they decide to change their mind, okay, they get 90% of what they put in for the feedback. If the plan review happens before that, before it goes in, and Mike spent a ton of time on it to make sure that all the building code is up, everything's up to the building code, then it's another 10, or I think we did 20, right?
25.
Yeah, 25. So, and then again, once we get to the inspection point, now we're talking about, real time that not only comes at the expense of the building department, but it also comes at the expense of other taxpayers and other people who have permits out there, because, what's happening is somebody's going through all this process, they go through the inspection, now it fails, and they say, okay, well, I want my permit feedback, or whatever, I'm not gonna go forward with it, I want my permit feedback, and now we're spending a lot of other time and a lot of resources on it. So, I like the concept that Mike came up with here. I think it's a really good way that properly balances it out, and by letting everybody know up front, I also think there's a deterrent to people putting in poor plans, which is something that, happens more than we care to admit, right? There's a lot of coaching and handholding that goes on from our building department, and these guys do a great job, so I think this is a good and very fair way to address the problems.
So, I just asked Kathy Harrington, I just have a question, maybe it's because I don't work in this area, I've never pulled a permit, I don't totally understand it, so I just wanna make sure that I understand it. The way it's written, it says that if a permit has not been issued yet, or if it's under review, if they make a request in writing, they'll get 25% of the administrative costs back, 25% of the plan review, and 20% of the cost, inspection costs, or am I misreading, because I guess I'm not.
No, the department keeps 25%, the rest of it goes back. And then after the plan review, 50% will be kept. And then,
Gotcha, all right.
Because it says a partial refund will be given as follows, so then I read it as like they would get 25% back of administrative costs. So what you're saying is they would get 75% back and the town would keep 25?
Yeah.
Just think maybe that could be clarified a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think at one point we had and I don't know which version you have in front of you, but I would suggest it say deductions will be made as follows.
okay,
Because
Because then they're taking the
that way
20.
it's very clear.
okay, deductions, okay. All right, thank you. That'll be good.
Right, so I'll just say, the inspections, once you start having inspections, very quickly, so if the house starts, or building starts being constructed, you're gonna very quickly be in a position where you're not gonna get a refund, because the, footing inspection, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly, you're gonna be out.
Yep.
Okay.
not every permit requires the same amount of inspections, but
What's the distinction between someone who applies and withdraws their application for whatever reason, as opposed to those who apply and it gets denied at somewhere along the steps?
it depends on how much time the department spends reviewing, looking through their documents. If there's a mistake, we'll give them their 100% back if we've spent no time on it.
Yeah, but if, let's say they're down towards the end of the process, and it gets denied by a board in town,
else have any questions in regards to this?
No. My only question is, do you get a lot of requests for refunds?
Not a lot, but we need something in writing.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, because I like it, because if someone goes in and they've applied for it, you looked at it, reviewed it, but you haven't done an inspection yet, they're gonna get half back. That's what it looks like.
I would say, we've dealt with it enough times since I've been town attorney that it warrants having something in writing. It's not, it's, you know, it may be a once a year or twice a year thing, but that's enough.
Yep.
How many requests for permits and that do you normally get in a year?
For refunds?
No,
Just
just going
Permits in
forward.
general? I'm not sure exactly, there's hundreds, probably around,
You remember, Mike
600.
just started,
I'm sorry?
Mike just started a couple minutes ago.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I'd have to look at it.
okay.
It's a lot, and it's, I forget what the last, I don't know that I saw the number in the budget this year, but I mean, the building department generates a significant amount of revenue. It's probably the biggest,
Yeah.
10 million,
$500,000.
half a million?
I wish it was 10
I
million.
thought you said-
Yeah, I wish it was 10 million. You won't be paying taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, so $500,000 in the budget this year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
so
over.
it's a lot of money.
Okay, why don't we move to the reinspection policy? This is one I had asked Mike to do, so why don't you go over that a little bit?
Okay, so, if we have to repeatedly go out to a project and inspect the same failures, after the second reinspection, will be a fee. I just feel that these are licensed contractors, they should know, they have access to the code just like we do, so they should know what they're doing. I mean, this is taking time away from other residents that could be requesting an inspection. And then the other is just, if people fail to cancel and we show up, we spent the time to drive out there to do the inspection, that again takes away from someone else's time that is prepared and there, so.
And can I just make sure I'm understanding you correctly? So if I'm hearing you right, so there's two inspections for the same failure. So you have the initial inspection, you have a second trip out there, you have a third trip out there, and if you have more than that, there's gonna be a fee?
No, for the third inspection, though, was when the fee comes in. So after the second time it failed for the same reason.
Okay.
And my question is, so let's pretend they fail on the third try and they do a fourth, would we charge them again another $100, right? Okay. This one I understood.
Okay. You guys have any questions? You guys see this? Okay. All right, then why don't we go over the unauthorized use and occupancy ordinance?
Okay, so this is for when the project comes to an end and somebody decides to move in to the home without getting their CO issued to them by the building department. This is really a life safety issue, and this is backed up by Connecticut state statute, so this is something that's pretty serious, so need something to deter them from just moving in.
How often does this happen? What do you say, in your experience?
It just happened.
Okay.
Yeah,
Before that,
I would say it happens a lot. I mean, the other hat I wear is in private practices, I do real estate closings, and I can't tell you how many times a year that I see this happen. Dozens of times. Not in Suffield, but just in the area. We did have a matter in court, and I think this has always been on my radar for that reason. We did have a matter in court. We brought it to evict someone who had moved in before the CO was issued. We got to a hearing, we talked to the judge, and the judge said, okay, what does the town ordinance say about how much you can fine them on a daily basis? And of course, we didn't. So we got an order for the guy to leave, but that order didn't have a ton of teeth from the date we put the fine in up until the point that the court made the ruling. The court's ruling statutorily can charge them from that date moving forward, and that's what happened, and that's ultimately how it got out there. But that number would have been much higher if we had the ordinance in place. So I think it's, again, it's another mechanism to to drive enforcement, but more importantly, to drive compliance. And, unfortunately, the builders who will say to a new buyer who's building something, oh yeah, go ahead and move your stuff in the garage, we'll get the CO. Then these guys come out to inspect and they walk into a garage that's full of stuff. Look, it's a real problem, and if something's wrong with the electrical hasn't been inspected and there's a fire, who do you think they're gonna come back on when that stuff isn't insured? They're gonna come back on the building official, and the town. So I think this is, it's a very simple ordinance, I think it's very, very necessary. And again, I think it'll make a big difference with what the building department can do.
Outside of fining a person, is there any, can we evict them?
Yeah, not without an order of the court, and it kind of happens two ways. There is a housing and building code enforcement arm within the office of the chief state's attorney, and they will, they will prosecute these. Unfortunately, when we had the last one, it was during COVID, and they told us to deal with it civilly, so that's how we addressed it. And again, that's the other way we can do it, is we can address it civilly, so literally through an eviction. So usually it doesn't take that long. That was a extenuating circumstance, I would say.
It's 250 like an average number?
Yeah, the statute's 250.
Oh, okay.
This is Kathy Harrington. I just want to say, I definitely support this. I'm usually more in favor of less government, less rules and regulations, but it seems this is something we need, and we're being reactionary, because we're having, people are taking advantage of this, kind of seeing a loophole, so I think it's good. If 250 is what's set by statute, then that's what we should go with.
And I should note, just for the public and for people listening at home, there's also the provision to appeal this. If you think this was levied against you incorrectly, you can appeal the Building Code Board of Appeals, which again is another way that we get a little check and balance here. And while that's another commission that probably only meets once a year, they're very knowledgeable. We've got a great Building Code Board of Appeals and they do a good job. So.
Awesome.
Well, I'm assuming if a builder says to the person buying the home or whatever it is, go ahead, we'll get the CO. The builder won't have any accountability for it at all. It'll all fall on the homeowner.
No, it'll actually fall on the builder,
Okay.
because it's gonna be whoever owns the property. So typically in a residential closing, when there's a new build, the homeowner doesn't take possession of the property until that CO is issued, because a mortgage can't be issued on a property that doesn't have a CO. I say that with an asterisk, and we can get into that, but we don't need that lecture right now.
So it is the builder?
Yes.
Okay.
And all we're really doing is adding teeth to the state building code that we're gonna enforce.
We're adding, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Right.
Anyone else?
Ideally, we don't have to use it, it's just,
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
so ideally, we don't have to use it.
Sure.
But if needed, you'll
To
have it.
determine. All right.
This was just discussion tonight, no vote.
It was, I just wanted to see what everyone's thoughts were, if you had any edits or recommendations, so Mike, appreciate your work, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, item number 11 is discussion and approval of ARPA funds and refer to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance during the budget process decided to pull the funding from ACE for the radio project, with the thought that bonding for the project would be a better route. In doing so, they recommended possibly putting any park project for Bridge Street into the bonding package for referendum, which means the ARPA funds for that project would no longer be needed. The ARPA committee met last night and approved to reallocate these funds to cover the costs of surfacing the new playgrounds, which was in the ACE budget. The total amount is $301,162. So the next step is that the Board of Selectmen approve this and then refer to the Board of Finance, which they already have, and then we go to the town meeting, which last year we put in the budget meeting, so we'll follow the same process this year. You guys received the Excel document for the ARPA spending. Do you guys have any questions?
No, this is Kathy Harrington. I'm going to move that we approve, which is approval of ARPA funds and refer to Board of Finance.
I would do the $301,162.
I would make a motion that we move the $301,162 of ARPA funds and then refer to the Board of Finance.
That's to cover the cost of the playground.
There we go.
Okay, all right. Motion has been made, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 12 is discussion and approval of blight ordinance and refer to town meeting. So last meeting, we had our public hearing, and there wasn't too many comments that I heard, so do you guys have any final additions, edits, recommendations on this? Otherwise, I would recommend referring this to the town meeting.
So moved.
All right. Motion has been made, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 13 is discussion of charter revision and approval to create charter revision commission. So we discussed last meeting about turning elected positions into paid positions. So that would be the town treasurer, tax collector, there's also town clerk, and the first selectman position. So I wanted to see what everyone's thoughts were after our discussion and giving it some more thought.
Sure, so this is Jerry Mahoney. I was the chair of the last Charter Revision Commission. That commission met regularly for over a year, something approaching a year and a half. We did consider a town manager possibility, and we investigated that possibility. That did not garner a lot of support on that Charter Revision Commission. You know, my recollection of the discussion we had is that we'd like to see if we can get the town clerk, treasurer, and tax collector positions changed over to hired positions rather than elected positions, and get that moving, you know, kind of quickly from ideally to have that for this coming election in November. Based on my experience on a Charter Revision Commission, I would say to you, it's just not possible to have the Charter Revision Commission consider the town manager position and proceed with this thing this coming November. My position and recommendation would be for any Charter Revision Commission that's going to recommend a town manager form of government. I think it's only fair that if you're going to do that, that Charter Revision Commission has to identify what are the boards and commissions that it's recommending are ended by the switch or the town manager form of government. Because otherwise, you have a vote by the town. Let's assume the town says, yeah, we want to go with the town manager. Well, then you have to go back and say, what boards and commissions are you going to get rid of? Are you going to do that one at a time, 2, 3 at a time, whatever it is? And so when the town is first initially presented with the choice of going to a town manager form of government, if you don't tell them at that time what boards and commissions are being proposed to end, the people don't know what they're buying. In any case, based on the experience I had, it's not possible to go through that process and make that kind of recommendation for this coming November. So my position would be, let's just keep it simple. Let's just look at town clerk, treasurer, tax collector. It's going to be challenging for the commission just to do that and get it in a position that the people in the town can consider that this coming November. And tacking on the town manager form of government, that's just not workable to have that take place for a decision in November.
I think it's important to note that Darlene Burrell did tell me that she needs to know by September, so it does shorten that timeline for us.
Does it have to be presented at November? Can it be presented in some other time?
Yeah, my thought was that it was a
No, I
presidential election,
understand.
so there would be more people to vote
Yeah,
on.
no, I understand why you would do it in November, that's logical, but I'm just saying, I think Jerry's right, I mean, I think it says 16 months is the life of a commission. And it probably would be complicated to put it together, but I think it's a critical thing. This town, in my 40 years, I don't recall us ever being able to vote on it. It's been talked about, argued about, discussed about, but the town's people have never had that real opportunity to say yes or no before. There was a commission, I know that, say 15, 20 years ago, that the commission recommended and the Board of Selectmen turned it down. But it didn't get to the town voters. So I think it's something that we need to put on the table to let the town say yay or nay.
So I think we could put it on the table, but maybe for this round, we just put those 3 positions on the table.
I would prolong and go out further with the commission in order to deal with it. It is a complicated issue. It's not something that's simple to put on the table. You know, my perception of it would be if we decided to go with the town manager, we'd probably have to take a year or 2 to do that transition from first selectman to a town manager. And that seems to be what I've seen other towns do. So I'd rather us do it appropriately, and because if we do a charter revision and we don't put it on the agenda, or they don't deal with it, it could be another 4 years before it comes up again.
To that point, Derek, we're not limited, right? We could do, say we vote to have a charter revision, look at just these 3 positions as Jerry suggested, and we have a vote in November, whether they pass or not. Couldn't we convene another charter revision after that, like in November, December, January, and give them, you know,
Sure.
And don't we need, if we're going to put a vote of town manager, do we need a certain number or percentage of residents to come up to vote in order for that? Is that a specialty vote for
So-
town manager?
In a regular municipal election, a regular election that's scheduled with the town, either a state or municipal election, you only have to get a majority, okay?
Okay.
If you were to consider it a special election, it's referred to differently in the statute. If you were to have an election in May, right, you could do that, but you would need a threshold of 15% of the electorate turning out in order to pass. So
Okay.
it's not just a majority, it's a majority plus 15% of the electorate turning out.
Because even if you got the majority, if you didn't get the 15%, it wouldn't
Correct,
pass.
and that has famously happened in Hartford on multiple occasions in the late 90s and early 2000s. I think they had 6 votes before they got 15% of the
So
electorate.
So we could in like December or January, like I said, convene another charter revision that could look solely at town manager, potentially for a fall election.
Yes, but, again, you charge the Charter Revision Commission, but they can do whatever the hell they want.
Of course, absolutely.
So,
I understand.
you know, and that's, you know, and they may come back and say, look, we're not gonna make recommendations, we can't make recommendations in this timeframe. Or, you know, we're gonna recommend a town manager and an up and down vote. The other really important thing, and I don't think this was in the cheat sheet that I had given out before, but there are 2 ways to vote. So we talked about last time that, you know, they had this we had a very confusing ballot with, 16 different questions or whatever it was. You don't have to itemize those questions. You can do an up or down vote on all of the changes, that essentially says, do you accept the recommendation of the Charter Revision Commission? So there are multiple ways to do that. I do think that's important when we talk about, what the charge would be.
I think, Kathy, your suggestions, my only concern is having observed, and I've never been on the Charter Revision Committee, but my observation is it's a very tiring process. It's a lot of meetings, a lot of time on whoever's on that commission.
Well, it depends who you have chairing the commission.
a good chair.
But my point only is, it might be hard to get more volunteers to come forward after they say that.
I think it might be tough to get volunteers if we are tasking them with so many, or something so huge in such a short period of time. That's my concern. If Darlene needs these by September, written out and voted upon by the Board of Selectmen so she can put them on the ballot, printed, it's a
But
tight
we don't have
timeline.
to do it by November.
We don't.
No, you
No.
don't have to, but it's certainly
I
a
I
desirable
understand it's more
way to-
expedient.
Right.
Yeah, no,
And I don't know why we're gonna hold these three up for the sake of the town manager issue that could take a lot of time to resolve.
I'm in agreement with Jerry. I mean, I'm an advocate for town manager, but let's move these three on. You know, we can convene another commission later.
And I think that's a good idea, Kathy, but if it's the average lifespan of the charter revision is 16 months, why don't we just add the town manager and do it, not at this election, do it the next one? I understand the idea you wanna do it in presidential because there's probably 20% more people vote, but we can get it all done at once and we won't have to have charter revision and then another one because we really technically don't have to do another charter revision until next year. We're just we're a little ahead of it, I think.
Which is good.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Also, we just want to make one correction, because it's important. It's not that the average is 16 months, it's the maximum is 16
Okay,
months.
all right.
So,
There's
that's,
no time.
yeah, they serve until the Board of Selectmen either accepts or denies their recommendation, but a maximum of 16 months.
Okay.
But if that puts us at a special election, we're not only going to need a majority, we need the 15.
It doesn't, because the board could accept the recommendation
wait.
and then wait until the
Okay,
next election.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that clarification.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's why it's triggered, the 16 months ends when the board votes on the recommendation. Board of Selectmen, as the appointing authority, votes on the recommendation.
Okay.
I'm inclined to wanna do it all.
I'm inclined to move those three forward, create the commission, pick a number. Let's at least get those three out of the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna move that we approve the creation of a charter revision commission to consider having the town clerk, treasurer, and tax collector become hired rather than elected positions, and that the commission be made up of an odd number of people between 5 and 11.
All right. The motion has been made. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I would think, I don't agree with the motion, but if we're gonna put together, I would like to see no one from the Board of Selectmen on it. Yeah, we
I'd
get
like to see
citizens.
somebody from the Board of Selectmen on it. I think it's
I'm
important.
giving you my opinion,
Yeah.
my opinion, and I think we should have citizens from town, because it's gonna come here to the board for approval or nay. So we have an opportunity with Board of Selectmen to have our input.
We have 30 days there then to appoint.
Yeah, correct.
From this
Once you create the commission, and I think that's enough of a charge that you've put in the motion. I think you meet all the requirements you need to tonight, but once it's created, you've got 30 days to appoint the folks on there. So you can solicit resumes and get people.
Well, probably not resumes.
Letters of intent. Question, what if
Withdraw the last one.
we convene the Charter Revision Commission, but they're not done in time? Or they do want to add the town manager, even though we've said, consider this, do we just push it back to the next election? Or, then what happens?
It's a good question. If the board does it, you would essentially give the board a deadline to report at some point after you appointed them, to report back to you. And if they couldn't report back in time, there essentially wouldn't be a vote. Or they would report back that they don't have a vote, and you just have to accept that. So yeah, that's a possibility on a tight time frame for sure. They also have to have 2 public hearings in a very short amount of time here as well. They're gonna have to have a public hearing within the first 30 days after they're appointed, and then they're gonna have to have a public hearing after their recommendation is finalized but before it's presented to the Board of Selectmen. So you're probably, realistically, you're looking at a June public hearing and a probably mid-August public hearing with their recommendations being made to the Board of Selectmen at a meeting at probably end of August. First week in
It's gonna
September.
have to be if,
I think Darlene needs it, I think, by like September 15th,
Yeah,
14th,
that
or
sounds
something
about
like
right.
that.
And don't they historically have public input at each meeting?
Yes.
that's the way we handle it, yeah.
So is there anybody, I know you don't think anyone from the board should be on, but I would like to see somebody on. I mean, I know you guys have a lot of interaction with our other boards and commissions, so you're pretty busy. Peter, Mel, if either of you wanna step up and
I can't do it, I don't know if I would be able to do it.
Mel, you have zero interest.
I have opinions about it, but I don't see you chairing it.
Well, you don't have to chair it.
To be on it?
I don't think you have to chair it. You can just be on it. They'll
That's
decide.
Right, because the commission will vote on who their chair is going to be.
Okay, I misunderstood. Yeah, I'll be on it.
I thought you said you didn't think anybody from the Board of Selectmen should be on
I don't.
But you'll be on it.
that. Just calling it out.
But if you're going to vote for it, then I want to.
Make up your mind.
The important point is that you can't have more than a third of as elected officials of the town, which we ran into trouble with last time.
Okay.
Just take that in, as you
As
put,
elected.
Elected, not appointed.
elected, not appointed.
Okay.
All right. So the motion has been made. Is there any further discussion on this?
No, I'm just gonna vote no, only because I think we should put it all on there and do it at the following election, that's all.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries 3-2. Item number 14 is public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? See there, thanks.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment in the room? All right, seeing none, oh,
Yeah, I just, change the subject.
name and address.
John Murphy, 18 Downers Way. As far as the charter revision is concerned, I've served on 3 of them. I was on that last one where we did all that work, and I can categorically tell you, we went out to the different towns, we compared it, all the meetings that came in, we had the groupies that came in when we were talking about getting rid of the fire commission. There were 100 fire people in there, all defending their turf. So just be careful. This charter revision or this town manager has been shot down for all the times I've been on it, and it's been 3 of them. I won't go near this subject anymore because it's a hot subject. Most of the people in town like the elected kind of a thing, that's my opinion. And then when it comes down to getting which commissions you're gonna get rid of, the fighting is unbelievable. It's not that easy, and there's no way in hell, if you're gonna do it right, it's gonna be ready by November. You might as well have 2 separate ones, do these, and then let's form a separate one just on that one subject, so you can go out as much as you can. Because the pressure that was put on us, among the other things, and then to find out that year, everything we recommended was shot down by the first select, or the Board of Selectmen. And the air went right out of us, and I swore I was never gonna do that again, because you spend all this work, and 0 got changed. Now, you had some success the last time, but the 3 I was on, nothing happened. And the town manager was always front and center. It was just a lot of work for no results. So just be careful and be mindful of it. It's not that easy. There's so many complications, and we went to all these different towns. Skinner's out in Columbia, I went out to see him, sat with him, all for nothing. Months and months and months, and months and months and months, for 0. So just be careful, it's not that easy. Fair enough?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Any other public comment before I move on to Zoom? All right, is there any public comment on Zoom?
No.
Any public comment on Zoom?
No.
All right, see none, I'll move on to item 15, is selectmen updates. So I want to thank our election team for the work on the new early voting process and additional long hours and days. I don't know if you guys got a chance to early vote, but it was a lot of time for these guys. Town's now offering property check, which allows property owners to receive notifications when official documents are recorded on the property to help combat property fraud. Zero cost to the taxpayer, almost, and can sign up on recordhub.cotsystems.com. I have library director interviews tomorrow, and I have finance director interviews Friday. Update on that. An update on the TIF grant, which we approved recently. We received 19 applications, and the EDC approved all of them with a payout of $240,000 to those businesses, so I'll keep you guys updated as we get the checks out. We have our public hearing next Wednesday for the budget. We have a townwide cleanup day on the 27th, so I invite you guys to join us then, 9 to 12. And we just set our dates for the 3rd annual summer fair, which is June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd this year. We pushed it a week back. Anyone else have anything they want to share?
So I do, it's Kathy Harrington. I just wanted to, I really appreciate the suggestion that Mike Haynes made tonight about me being compensated. I really appreciate it, but I would just say that there's no way I'm going to take any money from the taxpayers. So I just appreciate the gesture and the thought, but there's no way I would take any money from our taxpayers. And because I neglected to say so last time, I just wanted to thank all the people who spoke out and supported me at the last meeting and at this meeting. All the private and public support I've gotten, especially from Jerry and from Colin, and from Jerry's wife Lori, and my husband.
Thanks, Kathy.
Jerry Mahoney. First, I want to recognize Christine Snopley on the Library Commission. The Library Commission had a vote a while ago to create an interim search committee. Christine Snopley didn't even vote for the creation of that search committee, but it did pass. It was created, and as the chair of the Personnel Committee, she ended up chairing that interim search committee, and she ran that commission through, or that committee through. She got interviews scheduled, she worked with the town HR, she moved it forward, she got it done, and I wanted to recognize her for taking care of that and moving that forward. And she didn't even end up voting in favor of advancing the current candidate, but she didn't let her personal feelings about that interfere with moving the process forward, honoring the process, and getting a candidate to the first selectman. I also want to recognize, over the past couple of weeks, at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, at the last Library Commission meeting, there were folks across the aisle who have urged the first selectman, myself, and other Republicans to become more civil, less divisive, less partisan. I completely agree that people should not engage in personal attacks. I just wonder where these comments have been for the past 3.5 years when folks were engaged in all the name calling that you read about in the first selectman's article. The timing of their concern, I think, is interesting. They didn't speak out for all that time until there was Republicans who became angry, and rightfully so, because a person in the leadership of the town Democratic Party filed a complaint with Kathy Harrington's employer. Unless something has changed very recently, the town Democratic Committee has taken the position that there's nothing wrong with what this person did. And I'm sorry to say that my colleagues on the Board of Selectmen across the aisle have not said that this was wrong. And I just wonder if it had been Pete Hill, if there had been a Republican who had called Pete Hill's employer and made a complaint about Pete Hill, and Pete Hill had to be investigated and go through that, how long it would take them to say that this was wrong. I very much appreciate Christina Howell's comments tonight. Christina Howell and I don't agree about anything at all under the sun, all right? But I appreciate the fact that she did actually what a normal person ought to do, which is just recognize that something was wrong. Yet, the position that's been taken by the Democratic Party in our town is that this is the new normal, that if you disagree with someone politically, you try to get them fired from a job. I've been called a lot of things since I've been on the Board of Selectmen. I never thought about trying to get somebody disciplined or fired from their job. And I think that if people are really interested in civil discourse, less divisiveness, less partisanship, they really should tell the people in the Democratic leadership of this town that that's what they want, because that's not what they have been providing. The Democratic Town Committee has ejected people from the DTC in the past. When Melissa Mack was a sitting first selectman, it's my understanding they ejected her from the DTC. So they can do it, they know how to do it, they haven't done it for the Irwins. They can tell Jim Irwin that he should resign under the circumstances. And I would suggest that they should.
Thanks, Jerry. Anyone else have anything to
Yeah,
share?
I'd like to say something. You know, Jerry, some of your information is incorrect. First off, Melissa was never asked to leave the party. But more importantly, you know, when it came to my attention regarding the letter requiring or investigating Kathy's position, I called it, and I privately talked to her. I've also spoken at the DTC about it. I do not condone that action. But, you know, what I've seen and heard here, this meeting and last meeting, is it's all the DTC. I've heard no responsibility on the RTC's part regarding, not Kathy, it's I don't argue with you on that, that's wrong. What I argue about is, it started with the Library Commission, with you unilaterally as Republicans eliminating people and setting up a whole new precedent on how we appoint people. And that created a lot of turmoil, and it's continued on. And you talk about the discussions in town, you and I certainly don't agree, but we talk. And I think that's what we need to do, and we don't do that. I think Christina, I admire what she said tonight, I think she's right on target. But it's two ways, it's not one way, it's a two-way street. And I think the Republican Party needs to look at what they've done too, as well as we look at ourselves and what's happened.
Well, I would say communication's important, but because we did something you didn't like, we just go after people's jobs in.
No,
That's
I'm not,
line up for me.
I'm not condoning that, I said that, I think
You're
that's
saying
wrong.
because of the actions that we made 2 years ago, you know, that we're going down the path of what the Irwins did.
I think it started a path that none of us like.
So, Mel, you did call me, and I told you after the last meeting how much that meant to me. And I also told you how disappointed I was in you that you didn't speak up at the meeting. And I told Selectmen Mill the same thing. It really hurt me that we could not be a united board against what happened to me. And I appreciate you tonight saying that you don't condone it, but it troubles me that you then but continue to go on. It just needed to end there, because what we're talking about is what was done to me. It has nothing to do, we should not relate back, and we should not be talking about the change in commission membership for the library commission. They're two separate issues. The Irwins merged them together. They came after me because of that. And I voted based on, I spoke from my heart at that meeting. Someone accused me of spreading lies and vitriol. And if vitriol is the characterization they want to use, I'll disagree with it, but that's their choice. But lies, I challenge anyone on that library commission to tell me what lie I spoke, because nothing that I said that night was a lie. Every single thing was true. I spoke from my experience with them, my experience with them after I became a Board of Selectmen member, and their failure to step up and support us after we were called out by an employee who copied every other employee in the Library Commission, and the Friends of the Library, and volunteers. So while I appreciate you saying tonight publicly that you don't condone it, I think it just needed to end there and have the other discussion another day.
And so I wasn't gonna talk about this, I didn't know you were gonna bring it up, Jerry, so I apologize to Kathy after the last meeting that I didn't call her, but through extenuating circumstances, I really wasn't in the know of really what happened. But I do condone what they did, and it's deplorable what, I shouldn't say they, which she did. Oh, no, I do not condone, yeah, I do not condone what they did at all. No, it's deplorable what they did. But we can't blame all Democrats for what one person did, or what that committee did. There's some great Democrats, there's great Republicans, so we have to circle our collective wagons and work together as a community to get through it and get to the other side.
I think the thing that Jerry's bringing up, and I don't condone, I don't believe in tribalism. I don't believe in any of that. If people know me, they know I live in the nuance, I live in the gray. It's what I tell people. I try to bring as many people with me here in the middle, because I believe we have so much common ground. But I believe what Jerry's talking about is the statement where it said that it's okay to hold people accountable for violating and breaking rules, and I broke no rule. I violated no rule. And I challenge anybody. I mean, Ms. Irwin, FOI'd the results of my investigation. She has the entire report. They sent it to her last week. So she can see in there that all the allegations were unsubstantiated and that investigation was closed. I didn't break any rules. And the DTC has not taken their, revoked their statement or modified it in any way. So I don't go after all Democrats. It's whomever put that out, they support what the Irwins have done.
100%. So I didn't say anything about all Democrats. What I'm talking about is the leadership of the Democratic Party in our town has to step up and take out the trash. That's what's got to be done. This should be addressed, and instead, on the last Board of Selectmen meeting, on a night where the main topic of discussion was a person in the leadership of the Democratic Party in our town filing a complaint seeking disciplinary measures against Selectman Harrington, okay? We have the chair of the DTC get up and tell us the Republicans were too partisan. That took gall. That took gall.
All right, well, appreciate everyone, what you got to share. And entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
You heard Mel. You heard Mel vote against Blair?
Yeah, oh yeah, what was that all?
That's politics, that's politics.
I mean,